Hey, good afternoon. It's Tuesday, February 28th. Last day of February. 2 months gone already. And welcome to my channel, Everyday Talk 24/7. The first few days of this week, at least, we're considering what it means to be human. And yesterday we talked about that in terms of the way we were created, how God created us to be. We were made in His image. And we are His creatures, not ones to do with our lives as we please, but according to what He has called us to be. Today we're going to take that the next step and go a little bit further. We looked at Genesis 1:27 yesterday. So God created man in His own image. He created him in the image of God. He created them, male and female. And then verse 28 says this: God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over it. Rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and every creature that crawls on the earth. You see, this is just as important as us being created by God. As we mentioned yesterday, we were created for a particular purpose. And He never left humans without a direction for that purpose. We are the ones who rejected His purpose for our lives. But we see in verse 28 here of Genesis chapter 1, that purpose is spelled out for us. We're to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, that is, go out and take it for the honor and glory of God, and subdue it. Make it work for the honor of God. That's our job description. And what we did, collectively as humans, we walked away from that. Instead of being nourished and fed and cared for by the Word of God, we chose to be cared for by ourselves. That's the real component we're talking about today. What it means to be human is to be nourished, fed, encouraged, just enriched by the Word of God in our lives. See, we were never created to be free moral persons to do whatever we wanted to do based on our own desires. That's toxic to us. Now, where we live now, that's the creed to live by. But in terms of what the Scriptures teach us, it is deadly poison to us, rotten food for us, to feed ourselves on the basis of our own desires. There was this obvious purpose and rule that God gave to people right off the bat. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth and conquer it for the honor and glory of God. But we rejected that rule. We despised it. We wanted to eat our own food, nourish ourselves by our own will. And I get to ask my favorite question: how did that work out for us? We can look at the rebellion in the garden. We can look at Cain's rebellion and when he killed Abel. But there's a collective rebellion that I don't think we spend enough time thinking about. And it's down in Genesis 11, after the flood, when the people are together and they have decided we're going to stay together. We're going to reject the rule of God. We're not going to go out into the earth and do the things God called us to. We're going to hang out right here and do our own thing. Look at Genesis 11, verse 4. And they said, come, let us build to ourselves a city and a tower with its top way up in the sky. Let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered throughout the earth. See, they wanted to make their own name. They didn't want to claim the word of God, the name of God. They wanted to have their own name and not go throughout the earth, not do the job that God gave them to do, but to do what they wanted to do. This became the Tower of Babel. The Babylonians, that's where this whole thing came from. Then we see this collective rejecting of God. So this group of folks, instead of doing what God called them to do, this cluster of the first humans, they hung out and did not want to leave. They were not interested in bringing honor to God. They were interested in bringing honor to themselves. they determined to defy the life-giving Word of God and instead be nourished by their own word, their own desires, instead of God's desires for them. And the result was, instead of caring for the earth, they wanted to care for themselves. God gave man, humans, man and woman, children, the charge to go out and care for the earth. Subdue it in a way that's going to bring honor to God. Instead, these folks, we follow them now, they did what they wanted to do. They brought honor to themselves. They cared for themselves. So instead of caring for the earth, they used the earth. They used the planet. And we're still doing that today, using the planet to satisfy our desires instead of giving honor to God. And this boils down to what the crucial factor, what I'm looking at today, and we're going to look at today and tomorrow at least. Are we going to follow and be nourished and fed by the Word of God, or are we going to follow and be nourished and fed by our own word, by our own standard? The people at the Tower of Babel chose to follow their standard and reject the plan of God. You see, everyone has that same choice to make. Are we going to be nourished by God the way He designed us to, and to be nourished by His Word, because nothing else is reliable? Or are we going to be nourished by ourselves or the desire of other people? We are not designed to act apart from a standard. That standard is either the Word of God, the fullness of the Word of God, not some set of legalistic rules that people try to make the Bible up to be, to make the Bible into a system of rules and things that you can please God by performance. But rather, the Word of God is meant to enrich our lives. Jesus says that people will not live by bread alone, but by every word of the Father. It's the bread of life. It nourishes us. It enriches our lives. If you see the Word of God as something which is a constraint, then you don't understand the Word of God. It's meant to nourish us, encourage us, allow us to sleep, to free us from anxiety, to keep us from depression, to enter into a rich relationship with God. But what we've done is we've turned away from that, and we've accepted other standards, other ways of living. But everyone has a standard. Everyone has some system that they live by. Everyone. The only question is, are you going to follow something that's of your own making, which will be toxic to you, which is like the worst possible fast food diet in the world? Or are you going to be nourished and enriched and thrive on the Word of God so that you can take life, hold of life that is truly life? And that's the choice before us. And we'll go more deeply in that tomorrow. But I wanted to establish today this basic reality. A rebellion is against being nourished and fed and cared for by the Word of God. Instead, we want to be cared for by our own standard, our own will, whether it's ours or somebody else's. We are all following a particular standard. And the choice is, do we want the one that brings life, or do we want the one that brings slavery? And that's the thought for this day. Again, thanks so much for being here. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Check out my new outro at the end. It's a pleasure to be with you. Lord willing, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching. It is such a huge encouragement.